Hello, welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about how to get involved in research. I don't know about you, but I remember being a little baby freshman and I had no idea what research was. Some of my friends were in it and they were like, oh yeah, I just go into the lab and I pipette things, or they deal with rats. And that was not going to fly for me. I was very hesitant to that because that just sounded boring. That wasn't gonna work for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my story with research, and then I'm gonna share some tips on how you can get involved in research no matter where you're at in your pre-med journey. For me, like I mentioned, I was very adverse to research. It was one of those things where I did not understand it at all. And a lot of people just told me, oh, when you're a pre-med, like your goal should be to get published. And I was like, okay, that's great. I have no idea what that means. After my sophomore year, I had a family friend who's a surgeon. He reached out to me and he asked if I wanted to come work for him and do research. And I was like, absolutely. I feel like I kind of was given this opportunity, just kind of like put in my lap. I had shadowed with this doctor before, and so we ended up working there, and I did research in a couple different surgical things. That doctor was very interested in how long it would take surgeons to learn a technique for a hip replacement going with an anterior approach instead of a posterior approach. And so I found tons of his surgeries and I looked at all the times from the surgical records and I put all of that data into a huge spreadsheet and we were analyzing that. I helped to write a protocol for a study on cryotherapy in postoperative patients with knee replacement surgeries. That was a very interesting thing. I learned about how to write a protocol, what needs to go into a protocol, getting approved by an IRB. Funding was huge. I had a research mentor who helped me with all of that. A lot of things I just had to learn on my own. It was a very good experience for me. It was very self-paced. The physician just kind of let me do whatever I wanted to, and that was really helpful for me because I wasn't under a little microscope where someone's watching me all the time. Although it would have been nice to have a little bit more mentorship, I think it was the perfect thing for me at the time. So then moving on, I was taking a class from one of my nutrition professors because I have a nutritional science minor. The way he structured his class was you had to do a presentation and you needed research articles to back it up, and then he also had you read a certain number of articles for his class throughout the semester. But then after that, he asked me if I was able to do research with him for the next school year, and I was like, absolutely, that would be awesome. So I ended up doing nutritional research, and I was just a research assistant. How to do finger pricks, and then we did DEXA scans, and then we did this cognition study with sugar and artificial sweeteners, and so it was a really interesting study. It finished up when I graduated from university, and it's getting analyzed right now, and so we should be having it published in the next year, which is another thing I'm excited for, is I'll be able to have that on my medical school application. That was helpful for me to kind of get another phase of research done. I also, for one of my classes, I had to write a literature review, which is basically where you read a bunch of articles and you summarize the findings on a particular topic. That is a really easy way to see what's current literature on a specific topic. That takes a lot of time. It was a long project it took a whole semester for me to write it. It's 20 pages or something, it's huge. That's kind of my research journey. It's so important to be up to date on research because overall what I found and why I grew to love research was research is the key element to improving patient care. And if that's what I want to do as a doctor, yeah, I'll be doing research. Yeah, I want to be reading research because I want my patients to have better outcomes. So that is really kind of where my story and my passion for research has come from. It's been a very exciting experience, and it was in things that I found interesting. So that would be my first tip, is figure out what you're interested in, find a medical passion of yours, and start there. I think that research is so broad, it's in every field. So being able to narrow down what you find interesting is an excellent way to start dipping your toes into the pool of research. The second thing I would recommend is, once you have a topic or something that you're really interested in, see if there are professors at your university who are conducting research in that area. So let's say you are really interested in metabolism. Then you would look at a department in your school that deals with biology or physiology. On my university, every time you go to a professor's page, it'll say what their research interests are in. It'll show what they have published. You kind of get a CV of what their experience, what their background is, and that's very, very interesting, because then you can go ahead and read their research and be like, oh, this really fits with something I'm interested in, and then you can reach out to them. And I feel like it's really nerve-wracking and weird to like reach out to a professor, but it's really important. It's a great skill, and honestly, taking the initiative is so important. One of the girls that was a research assistant with me, she started doing it because she just reached out to my professor and asked if she could do research with him, but she had never taken a class from him or anything, and so she got into it that way. So it can happen. It's a great way to go. You can try calling their office. You can try emailing them if you have their email. You can even go to like the department office, and if you don't have their email, you can ask them for their email. You could even, if all else fails, you can write them a note and mail it to them. Yes, you can get their address and mail it to them. If you, for some reason, just cannot get a hold of them, having a written thing could be another way to get a hold of them, or just walk by their office. That would be what I would do for a next step. If you didn't find what you were looking for at your university, then I would maybe go to looking at a hospital, and depending on how the hospital is structured, you can look up on their job thing for research assistants. You could also get in touch with some of the physicians that work there and just be like, hey, are you doing any research? Your field of medicine is very fascinating to me, and I would love to get involved in the research aspect. Do you personally do research, or do you know somebody who does? Because chances are, if they're established in an area, they're going to know who's doing research in that area on their particular field. You can also go to your pre-med advisement and ask them about research opportunities. I know my pre-med advisement, they sent out like a newsletter every month or so, and they would have research opportunities on there. So that is another really good way to get involved in research. Another thing that I would recommend doing, if you want to do research for a summer, med schools have tons of research assistants. You can just look up a research internship and see if you can find something interesting. You can even write your own research literature reviews on your own and look at how to get them published. Bring that to a professor and say, hey, I'm really interested in this topic. I've written a literature review. Would you kind of help mentor me in how to get it published? Or ask them if they know resources. It really comes down to taking the initiative. It really, really does. Sometimes you'll get lucky and people will ask you to do research with them, but really, at the end of the day, just like everything in our pre-med world, it's down to your initiative. And so those are some things that I would recommend doing so that you can get involved in research. And honestly, when you find your passion in it, it becomes a lot more exciting and you really enjoy doing it. Hopefully that was helpful for you to figure out some things that you can do to get involved in research. It is such an important part of your medical school application. It just shows that you are a contributor to the scientific world. And some universities, that is what they are so interested in. They really love research. They have a very ingrained emphasis on research, and so being able to do that as soon as you can, get started on it. It's a lot easier to start it earlier than to jump into it too late, because research takes a long time. So if you do have a goal of getting published, it might take a long time. You know, it could take a couple years to finish a study and then have it all analyzed and written up and published. So like I said, the earlier you start, the better it is. So good luck to you out there with all of your pre-med endeavors, especially with research, and hopefully that was helpful in just giving you some tips on how to get started and how to dive into that world. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you found that helpful, and let me know what you are doing for research in the comments below.